Stop making these 5 running mistakes. Number 1, straight in. Number 1 is not having any patience. So we've seen an explosion of people taking up running, which is fab to see over these past few difficult months that we've had since everything changed and we had to go from not being allowed out to only being allowed out once a day to now we're back in the situation where we can move freely around. However, the probably most common mistake that a lot of runners, particularly newbie runners, and I put myself in this category as well in terms of when I first started, it's patience. That is the number 1 mistake that people make in terms of the amount of patience they have, i.e. not very much. So, prime example is when you start running and you find that you actually enjoy it. It makes you feel good because of the escapism, because of the freedom of it, because of the way it makes you feel during or after it. And you get that bug, you get bitten, which is great. However, it's about being patient. I work with runners every single week, and patience is something that has to be learnt, and you have to develop it because it is so easy. I've seen so many runners do it whereby they want to run every day. And I would say running every day is probably the worst thing you can do when you first start out because of all the stresses and strains and pressure that running puts on our body. When you go running, it's 3 times your body weight through each leg when you hit the ground. And if you're going from nothing because maybe you used to run but then life got in the way and now you're picking it up again, or maybe you've never ran before in your life, maybe you're picking up running to get fit, lose a bit of weight, whatever it is, and you're eager. I get it. You're eager and you want to do more of it because of the way it makes you feel. However, listen to the advice from people like myself who've gone through it in terms of having made that mistake of not having the patience. Patience is what makes the difference between you getting to enjoy it in the long term and potentially you getting injured far too quickly, because running is a main stress on the body. It can place a lot of stress on the body, all right? And if you're suddenly going from nothing to running, say, 7 days a week, that was a classic case. I spoke to someone today and they said, I started running and doing it every single day, and I've been doing so for the last X number of weeks, and I'm wondering why I'm feeling it. I'm really feeling it in my knees and stuff like that. And we worked out that they had made one of the other mistakes that I'll talk about in a minute, okay? So they not only had no patience in terms of gradually building up their volume and their intensity and how far they ran and stuff like that, they also made the next mistake that I want to talk about. So just to kind of underline that first common mistake, patience, you have to develop it. You have to have it. You have to have self-discipline and follow some kind of structure, follow some kind of plan in terms of listening to your body, because your body will tell you that it needs rest, that it'll give you the signals, I guess, and it then depends on whether you pick up on those signals and you listen to them, or whether you go out again potentially far too soon, all right? So that's mistake number 1. The second one that this person I spoke to just today made was in terms of their footwear. Okay, so when it comes to running, or let's do it a different way. When you're playing tennis, you're going to play with tennis shoes. When you want some bowling shoes, you're not going to wear some high heels. And when you want to go running, you don't wear cheap shoes, okay? Like, it saves you so much time and effort in the long run if when you're about to do, or when you're about to start running, as soon as you can, rather than invest in a cheap pair to get you going, to get you started, invest in it, because it's going to put you in a much better position. They're going to be much better for your joints in terms of the number of pairs of trainers I've seen where people have bought them just offline because they were cheap. And I get it. You don't want to be spending a shed load of money first off. However, in the long term, you end up buying twice, because you buy the cheap shoes, you start running in them, they hurt you because they're not doing their job properly. You then go to a running shop and buy a actual proper pair of running shoes, and you've bought this pair of more expensive running shoes, and you've also bought the cheap ones. Whereas if you just bought the expensive ones, you would have saved the money that you would have otherwise spent on the cheap ones as well, right? So it's not just about the cheap shoes, it's about buying the right shoes, okay? You can buy running shoes that are cheap. It's just, are they built for your running style? And that is ultimately the question that you want to be asking yourself. Are these shoes, does my footwear do the job that they need to? And if you don't know, then find help. Go to somewhere like here in York. The only place I would recommend is going to Up and Running and getting your running style looked at on the treadmill, so that they can then recommend the right type of running shoe for you, so that in the long term it will support your running style and how your feet are landing on the floor. Because if your shoes are too flimsy and they're not supporting you, then you're smashing that pavement that you're running out on, and it's not going to be too much of a surprise when you feel injured. You feel it in the knees and the ankles and the hips and stuff, because in the long term you're basically just smashing the ground without the right kind of footwear underneath your feet. Okay, so that is common mistake number 2, the wrong footwear. Not necessarily just cheap footwear, but the wrong footwear in terms of its function and its form. Okay, the third mistake that I see and I hear time and time again is how people don't warm up. Okay, people don't warm up. At all of our sessions that I run, I make sure that our clients warm up. We have a 5-10 minute warm up where we're getting the body ready. And the reason we want the body warm before we go for a run is so that you get to enjoy the run even more. You're then warmed up. It's like warming up anything. It's like warming up your car. It's like warming up the oven before you use it. It's just going to work so much better when it's up to optimum temperature. And in the case of us runners, optimum temperature, I think, is going to be where you're almost breaking out in a sweat. You feel like you've done a mini workout already, like a 5-10 minute workout that kind of replicates the moves that you're going to do when you are actually running. Okay, so think leg swings and lunges, and ultimately you're telling the body that these are the moves that I want to be doing in a few minutes time. Prepare, get ready for me, so that you can run with less chance of injury, you can run easier and quicker because you're up to temperature, as opposed to the classic case of step out the door, maybe do a few stretches with your legs, and then you start, but you're actually running cold, okay? Everything's cold, and it can take 10-15 minutes for you to actually come up to temperature, for you to actually start enjoying the run, because the first mile or so can actually feel like quite heavy, quite hard, because your body is still warming up. Whereas if you warm up before you start the run, then you get to that point of, this is easier straight away or much quicker. Okay, so warm up the body, warm up the muscles and the joints, give the body a chance to run better for you. You can enjoy it much better if you warm up. And generally, the more intense the run is going to be, the longer and more intense the warm-up should be. So if you look at someone like a sprinter, like Usain Bolt, he will have been warming up for the best part of an hour and a half before his 10-second spurt. Whereas if you're going to be running for not very long, or you're not going to be running for very far or very intense, then it's going to be a lot shorter. But there is still the need, I think, to warm up regardless of how far you're going to go. Okay? The fourth mistake that I see a lot of runners make is carrying things. Okay? Carrying things in their hand, like a water bottle in one hand and a phone in the other hand, and it's just encumbered running. All right, encumbered running. If I had a choice, I would stick all of those things to my body so that my arms were actually free for me to run, as opposed to having to grip something that just gets annoying. Okay, especially if you've only got something on one side, say the classic case of a phone. If you're having to hold and grip a phone, that is so annoying, because you have to keep the tension on that fist for the duration of your run, and that in turn creates tension on that side of the body. So imagine you're here gripping tight on the left side, okay? That tightens up your forearm, but it also tightens up the shoulder, and then when you come to swing your arms, it just puts your form out, okay, by having that weight on one side or in both sides. So wherever you can, don't make the mistake of carrying stuff wherever possible. Stick it in your pockets, or get a running belt or something and attach it to your body so that you can run arm or hands free, so to speak, okay? So that you've got as much chance as possible of running with better form than having stuff that is ultimately going to cause tension in the body, and tension usually means harder, more difficult running, okay? So that is mistake number 4. And the fifth one is kind of relates back to the first one of patience, and that is to do with running through injury. This is the fifth common mistake I see. People haven't had the patience to go through catch the 5K in their own time, say, or get up to park run or whatever distance it is. They haven't built up gradually. They find that they're injured, and then because they're so eager, rather than letting the injury heal or getting someone to see them or see the injury and diagnose what's going on, they run through it. They think, I can just run through this, it's fine. And in the short term, you may be able to continue running, but in the long term, in the medium to long term, it's going to be to your disadvantage. It's going to actually not be good for you, because you're running through an injury, you're not allowing the body to heal, you're then running with a body that is not happy in terms of some kind of injury, and when the body's not happy but it's still wanting to help you move, what happens is it's going to compensate in some way, shape or form to minimize any more damage to that area. So say you've got like a really sore left toe or something, right? Suddenly your running form is going to change automatically because your brain is telling your body, okay, make me run. Let's move Mike and let's help him continue running. However, let's remove the pressure from his big left toe that is usually the one that he needs, so that he can still run, which means that then your feet are landing in a slightly different way, in a way that can cause, say, cramp in your foot, or you're going to get issues further up in the ankle and the knees and the shins and everything else, purely because your body is looking to compensate and minimize how much more damage you're doing to it by making it move. Okay, it's clever. It will find other ways to continue helping you move. However, in the medium to long term, it's not good for the injury. It's not good for your long-term running. So it's much, much better at that point to manage the injury, ideally get it seen to if it doesn't heal with rest, ice, compress and elevating it. Okay, if that doesn't work, it's not about taking pills to just mask it, because there's still an injury there. You may not feel the pain, but there's still an injury there. If it doesn't heal, then get it seen to, get it diagnosed in some way, shape or form. You've got physios, chiros, you've got sports massage people. There are a whole host of people out there who are far more qualified than myself to actually help you diagnose what the issue is, and then you can get back to your running, okay? Because we all love running in terms of the way it helps us to do so many things. It helps us to escape. It gives us the freedom. It gives us the mental space. It helps us to feel so much better during, after, and you get so excited about doing it as well. But if you can minimize, if you can stop making these 5 classic mistakes, your running will improve even more and you'll be able to enjoy it for longer. Okay, and that's ultimately my goal, to help you to enjoy your running longer by 1, being patient, 2, not investing, or rather just buying cheap shoes rather than investing in the right shoes. Okay, get the right kind of shoes. The 3rd one is not warming up. The 4th one is carrying too much stuff. And the 5th mistake is running through injuries. Okay, don't do it. I hope this was of help. Which mistake have you been making? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're seeing this anywhere else and not live, then dial this number or WhatsApp me on this number with any questions that you have about your running, and I'll see what I can do and get back to you with help. Okay, so have a great Friday. Is it Friday? No, it's a Saturday. Have a great Saturday, and I'll see you very soon with another video.